Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome back to Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. We have an activist who's been on the show in the past, but it's been a long time, Holly Jury from Colorado still?
Yes.
Okay, Colorado. And over in the wings we have Mr. John Burnett ready to play some music. We have a lot of hemp news, medical news, and some videos with Jorge Cervantes and about cannabis science and medicine. So we'll be back just in a moment with our hemp news segment after our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
Our first story tonight is from Jerusalem, Israel. The administration of plant-derived cannabis extracts is effective and well tolerated in patients diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, according to data published in the journal Scientific Reports. Israeli investigators assessed the safety and efficacy of the daily administration of CBD-enriched cannabis oil consisting of 30% CBD and 1.5% THC in a cohort of 188 patients with autism spectrum disorder. Of those patients who continued treatment for 6 months and provided feedback to researchers, over 90% reported some level of symptomatic improvement, including reductions in restlessness, seizures, and rage attacks. Approximately 1/3 of the respondents reported a reduction in their intake of other medications. The authors concluded, quote, "Cannabis as a treatment for autism spectrum disorders patients appears to be well tolerated, safe, and seemingly effective option to relieve symptoms, mainly seizures, tics, depression, restlessness, and rage attacks. We believe that double-blind, placebo-controlled trials are crucial for a better understanding of the cannabis effect on autism spectrum disorder patients," end quote. The results are consistent with those of prior Israeli studies, which concluded that the daily administration of CBD-dominant extracts was associated with, quote, "overall improvement in behavior, anxiety, and communication," end quote, in autism patients. This study, Real-Life Experiences of Medical Cannabis Treatment in Autism, an Analysis of Safety and Efficacy, appears in this month's edition of Scientific Reports. Our next story is from Baltimore, Maryland. Vaporizing cannabis as opposed to smoking it is associated with greater THC concentrations in the blood, according to clinical trial data published in the Journal of Analytical Toxicology. A team of researchers from Johns Hopkins University in Maryland and the Research Triangle Institute in North Carolina assessed cannabinoid concentrations in blood and in oral fluid following either marijuana smoking or vaporization. The authors concluded, quote, "For whole blood, greater detection sensitivity for testing was observed in vaporized conditions. Conversely, for oral fluid, greater sensitivity was observed in smoke sessions. Vaporization appears to be a more efficient method of delivery compared with smoking," end quote. Prior research by the same team published in the Journal of the American Medical Association reported that vaporized cannabis is associated with more dramatic changes in drug-induced effects than in smoking marijuana. The full text of this study, Acute Pharmacokinetic Profile of Smoked and Vaporized Cannabis in Human Blood and Oral Fluid, appears in this month's edition of the Journal of Analytical Toxicology. From the Virgin Islands, Democratic Governor Albert Bryan Jr. signed legislation into law last week establishing a regulated medical cannabis market in the United States Virgin Islands. The Medical Cannabis Patient Care Act permits qualified patients to possess and assess cannabis and cannabis-infused products from licensed dispensaries. Specified patients will also be permitted to cultivate their own marijuana. Under the law, regulators must finalize rules governing the program within 180 days. The Virgin Islands is the third United States territory to legalize medical cannabis access, joining Guam and Puerto Rico. Out of Tallahassee, Florida, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis last week told lawmakers to lift a legislatively imposed prohibition on the inhalation of medical cannabis. Lawmakers imposed the ban in 2017 in response to the passage of a voter-approved constitutional amendment legalizing the use and dispensing of medical marijuana. The ban prohibits registered patients from possessing marijuana in a form for smoking and bars the use of herbal cannabis except in instances where it is contained in a sealed, tamper-proof receptacle for vaping. The 2016 constitutional amendment contained no such restrictions, and it was approved by 61% of the voters, over 61%. Florida's Governor DeSantis said that he opposed the legislature's changes because they amended the law in a manner that was not in accordance with what the amendment envisioned. In May, a Florida Circuit Court judge ruled that the ban was unconstitutional. That decision was appealed by the administration of former Governor Rick Scott. By contrast, Governor DeSantis says that he will drop the appeal. Legislation was filed on Friday, today, SB 372 in Florida, to permit patients to possess and inhale herbal cannabis preparations. We've long argued against limitations on the inhalation of herbal cannabis, opining that inhalation provides patients with the ability to self-titrate or adjust their dose and is associated with the rapid and consistent onset of drugs effects. Out of Sacramento, California. State regulators in California gave final approval last week to regulations governing the commercial sale of cannabis, including rules permitting its home delivery. Under the plan, licensed businesses will be able to deliver cannabis to adults, including those who reside in localities that have otherwise prohibited retail cannabis sales. An estimated 390 of the state's 482 cities do not currently authorize retail cannabis operations. The League of California Cities opposed the new home delivery rules, and some experts anticipate that the regulations could eventually lead to litigation between municipalities and state regulators. The new rules take effect immediately. In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, members of the school board of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, unanimously voted last week in favor of new policy guidelines permitting caregivers to administer certain medical cannabis products to qualified patients while they are on school grounds. Voters last June, on June 26, approved a sweeping statewide initiative legalizing and regulating the use and dispensing of medical cannabis to patients who possess authorization from their physicians. Dispensary sales of medical cannabis began last month. Under the new policy, which takes effect immediately, only designated caregivers, not school employees, will be able to administer cannabis products to students, patients. Because state law prohibits any smoking on school property, caregivers may only administer non-smoke preparations of cannabis. At the federal level, U.S. Representatives Lou Correa of California and Clay Higgins of Louisiana, who is a Republican, and Correa being a Democrat, and Senator John Tester, a Democrat from Montana, and Dan Sullivan, a Republican from Alaska, introduced legislation this week, H.R. 712, or Senate Bill 179, the Veterans Administration Medicinal Cannabis Research Act of 2019, to facilitate federally sponsored clinical research into the safety and efficacy of medical cannabis among veterans. At the state level this week, activists in Denver gathered in conjunction with Colorado and Denver NORML chapters to lobby their state lawmakers in favor of workplace drug testing reforms, social consumption, and parental protections, and expanding access to the state's medical cannabis program. From New Jersey, opioid dependency was added to the New Jersey list for conditions for medical cannabis eligibility this week. And a North Dakota bill to permit qualifying patients to cultivate personal use quantities of cannabis for therapeutic purposes was defeated in a Senate committee this week. On the national level again, Senate Bill 420, the Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol Act of 2019, seeks to deschedule cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act, thus permitting state governments to regulate the activities as they see fit. We urge you to contact your state representatives or federal representatives and senators to support and co-sponsor Senate Bill 420. Bet you can remember that number. Out of Arkansas, legislation's pending Arkansas's House Bill 1150 in Little Rock to expand the state's nascent cannabis medical program. The measure expands the pool of applicants eligible for medical cannabis by allowing physicians to recommend it to those with a wide array of conditions, including asthma, ADHD, bipolar disorder, Parkinson's disease, and traumatic brain injury, among other diagnoses. In Washington, just across the river, up in Olympia, the Washington legislation's pending in the House and Senate, HB 1131 and Senate Bill 5155, to allow adults to grow cannabis at home. If you're up in Washington, please contact your state representatives and urge them to support those two bills and allow individuals to cultivate cannabis at home. Right now, Washington is the only one of 11 states that allow adult use recreational marijuana that does not allow people to grow cannabis in their homes. So we're urging people to support that, and we had Don Skacke here on the show a couple weeks ago talking about that. The Washington House Committee on Commerce and Gaming heard Senate Bill or House Bill 1131 back on the 21st, 4 days ago, but no action was taken on the bill. Separately, Senate Bill 5155 is scheduled for a public hearing in the Senate Committee on Labor and Commerce at 8 a.m. on January 31st. And we will have Anthony Taylor from the Oregon Cannabis Commission on next week to talk about changing the state legislative laws and what he's lobbying on. So we'll talk more about that next week. But that's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. And Mr. John Cornett's over there ready to play a tune. Welcome back, John.
Yes, sir. Hey, it's good to be back. Always good to be back. It's an old song. I think Little Feat, not sure if Little Feat wrote this song called Willing. I've been warmed by the rain, driven by the snow, drunk and dirty. Don't you know I'm still willing? When I was out on the road late last night, seen my pretty Judy, and every headline said, Judy, my Judy. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, Tehachapi to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back road so I wouldn't get wet. And if you get me weed, white sand wine, show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving. I've been kicked by the wind, I've been robbed by the sleet, had my head stoved in, but I'm still on my feet and I'm still willing. Now I smuggle some smoke, some folks from Mexico, got baked by the sun every time I go down to Mexico. But I'm still willing. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, Tehachapi to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back roads so I wouldn't get wet. if you give me weed, whites, and wine, show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Little Feet. That one.
Good song.
Okay.
Lloyd George, was that the?
Yeah, I was gonna say another, but it didn't have any weed in it, you know, so I had to go.
That one does. Well, welcome back again, Holly. It's good to see
Thank you
you.
for having me.
It's been a number of years since you've been on the show, and a while since you've been back here. You're originally a Colorado activist.
Yes.
You want to tell our audience how we met and how you came down
Sure.
here?
I actually was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy when I was young, because I had really bad scoliosis, which led to a lot of pain. And when I moved to Colorado, I found out about the medical marijuana program and was able to get my card and get using some cannabis quickly, which I wasn't able to have access to in Texas, where I'm originally from. And found out about the THC Foundation and was able to go see the doctor there, and ended up just becoming really passionate for cannabis and wondering why this amazing plant just wasn't legal and acceptable for anyone for medicine. So I just got involved really fast and wanted to help patients, and was really active in a lot of rallies in Colorado. And this was back when people didn't want to be on the,
the registry. They were
be
afraid
on the
that would
registry.
lead them to be arrested because the government will have this list.
Right. So there was only 660 people on the registry. It
When
was
you
still,
first got on.
yeah, right when I first got on. And I mean, it's massive now, of course, but it was just eye-opening, and I didn't know what I was missing, and had taken Vicodin and Oxycontin for 13 years previous of that for
How
pain.
did that affect your multiple sclerosis? Did it-
Muscular dystrophy.
Muscular
Yeah,
dystrophy,
I just
excuse me, I'm
had a lot
sorry.
of pain, and they tried everything, steroids, muscle relaxers, and I was on everything you can imagine, only 15, missing school so I could, get used to the drugs. And if I would have had access to cannabis, it would have been a whole different life for me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, I didn't remember things, and would fall asleep.
And so now, how did you when you first started cannabis, how did that work out for you?
When I used it recreationally. I just didn't really realize what I had until I started using it for stomach issues, that I was taking the medication and didn't realize it was causing the stomach issues until I kept going to the hospital, and then started using cannabis to help me deal with the nausea and the stomach pains.
Caused by the pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
Rather than the muscular dystrophy.
So the pharmaceuticals were really messing me up, and I would just use it to be able to get through the stomach aches, and finally realized I was really using it medically when I found out the pharmaceuticals were the ones sending me to the hospital.
Right. Yeah, there's side effects, they talk about them in all those ads we see now, but they didn't used to have all those ads all the time,
No.
about pharmaceuticals.
Our parents just did whatever the doctor said.
Yeah.
If they said take this, they gave it to you. So
The first medical cannabis doctor in modern times here in the United States was Dr. Todd McArea down in the San Francisco Bay Area. He worked to pass Proposition 215 in 1996, and he called the modern practice of medicine the monomolecular mercantile madness. So that kind of rolls off your tongue, but it does say it pretty simply. We have all these corporations trying to come up with that one magic bullet that they could patent, where cannabis they can't make as much money off of, and and it's grandfathered in. They can't patent it at all. But
and people would come into you know, the THC Foundation when I actually ended up working there, and would be on 4 different kind of pain medications. I just don't see how that's legal, and people just aren't aware, and they just trust their doctor.
Yeah, and they get addicted in very short order. You know,
super
less than a
easy.
week, actually.
Yeah, because the pain goes away, and you just don't know what to do without it.
Well, you know what? We are live tonight. It's Friday, January 25th, and if you have a question or comment for us, you can call us at that number that's there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We have a video here from our friend Jorge Cervantes. We're going to run this video, and we'll be back in just under 4 minutes.
Ok, aquí estamos subiendo. Oh, here we're... Hablo en inglés. Estoy tirando video, ¿vale? Sí, sí. Aquí va. God, no, this place is amazing. See, you've got Pati Morada here.
La patimora, y esa es una de segunda.
Wow, no, es completamente diferente, ¿no?
Sí.
Y luego la planta, this is coca plant right here. Y aquí está. Hola, buenas tardes. Muy bien, muy bien.
Por aquí,
Sí, estoy
aquí en territorio Colombia.
Sí, total, no, territorio NASA. Eso, claro, porque todos son NASAs. Nasaduch. Vale, sí, está. De momento estoy tirando un vídeo y ya, estoy mirando las plantas. Eso es un jardín genial, ¿no?
Sí, no,
Que hay de todo.
Hágale que aquí.
Y el café también. Eso. A mí estoy ya enganchado al café de Colombia.
Sí, eso.
This is coffee bean. Tengo que hablar en inglés. Okay. It's a coffee plant. Pati Morada has the purple stem, and then the coca plant. Wow. Wow. ¿Y cuántas plantas están aquí?
Aquí hay alrededor de 900 plantas, así todo este cuadrito.
Okay, really? 900 plants. 900 plantas. ¿Y cuánto de espacio de lote? ¿Cuánto sea?
Yo creo que hay un cuarto.
Un cuarto de hectárea.
Eso sí, de
¿Hectárea?
Sí, un cuartico.
Cuarto de hectárea, eso sería... oh, wow.
Por ahí más o menos.
Yeah, a quarter of a hectare. Yeah. Oh, está muy bien. Oh, wow, se ve de la cancha de fútbol.
Ah, sí.
You see the football stadium down there, the field. Yeah, esto es fabuloso.
Sí, no, eso por aquí es muy elegante, muy bueno.
Ajá. No, está muy organizado. Muy organizado. This is totally organized. It's great. Okay, me voy a parar esto. Oh, here comes a couple more guys. Pues todo el mundo está llegando. Muy bien. No, hay una vista aquí buenísima, ¿no?
Usted tiene buena vista, ¿vea?
Sí.
La torre, ¿vea? Allá, ¿vea?
Sí.
Allá están las torres, ¿vea? De comunicación, ¿vea?
Oh, ya, de los militares.
¿Vea? Allá,
Sí.
las torres.
Sí. Y otro jardín ahí mismo.
Claro.
No, donde las luces. Y aquí que está ya floreciendo, ¿no? O sea, ya acaba de empezarlo a florecer. Wow.
So that was Jorge Cervantes down in Toribio in the province of Cauca, or the state, in Colombia in South America. So that was a pretty good video. We have Holly Jury here. So we were talking briefly about the situation in Colorado, and we've been working to get social consumption in Oregon, but we don't have it yet. There are a couple of clubs, private clubs, that do allow cannabis consumption. How is that working out in Colorado?
It's a tough issue. I feel like it's very similar in Colorado. There is smoking lounges, but they allow tobacco, which is really tough for someone who doesn't smoke cigarettes to be in a room with
Sure.
a lot of smoke. So especially if you're a patient, and You know, you just want to have somewhere outside of your house to medicate.
Sure.
So it's just, it should be regulated like alcohol with, you know, the same thing. You should be able to go to a place where you can use it, and it's really tough because they are busting places in Colorado, but they're in some cities they're leaving them alone. So it just depends on where you're at.
Here in Oregon, you know, I sponsored the same time as the vote that made it legal in Colorado and in Washington in 2012, sponsored Measure 80 on the Oregon ballot, and it specifically allowed for social consumption in places that bar minors, just like alcohol. But we only got 47% of the vote, and the Soros-funded Drug Policy Alliance bill that went forward here was much more restrictive than the one that we proposed in 2012. So it hasn't allowed it yet, though some of the people involved in that, which was our Measure 91, are also working for social consumption.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of work that can be done in Colorado, and we're definitely working towards it. But a lot of people like to say taxed but not legal, just because they are taking the millions and millions of dollars that Colorado has created from the cannabis industry, but they're still, you know, busting into grows and closing them down all the time and not allowing smoking lounges.
Again, if you have a question or comment for us, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. And we do have a microphone here for audience members to ask a question. I can see someone's at the microphone. Go right ahead. Mike?
They just announced on the news the other night that the retail people are demanding the state pass laws to open up the cafes again. And I know there's 2 bills down in Salem sponsored by 6 legislatures.
Yeah.
They just haven't ever made it on the floor for a vote. I've been feeling pressure from them will kind of speed things up.
I think the legislature's just opening up now. I don't know. I think it opens Monday, doesn't it? I think it opens on Monday. So we'll have
Cafe generate a lot of money for the
we'll have Anthony Taylor here next week, who's been lobbying for Compassionate Oregonians medical group, and he's also on the Oregon Cannabis Commission, a governor-appointed medical advisory panel. And so he'll be here talking about the bills that they're trying to push through the legislature.
Awesome.
And I think we had a couple stories about cannabis consumption. And obviously there's 2 bills on the floor up in Olympia, Washington, that hopefully will go somewhere. We have another video. This is about cannabis and cancer. We'll run this and we'll be back in just a few minutes, so stay tuned. Hey, we're back. I did not expect that. I thought we were going to run that video just a little bit more, but you know what? We do have a microphone here and a studio audience, so go right ahead, John.
Yeah, I heard something really important tonight about those receptor cells. Now, I heard, and I've heard this before too, that you can actually consume too much of a good thing and the receptor cells shut down. They say, we're done. No more. And the question we had tonight, Bill and I were talking about how long does that shutdown take, and if it's so, if it's so.
Well, I think your liver continues to metabolize cannabinoids, so it's constantly doing that and turning them into metabolites, which are inactive. Sometimes those go through the kidneys and are expelled that way. Other times it can be stored in fat cells because it's oil and fat soluble. And so it'll be reduced pretty rapidly. I think the idea is that the molecule targets these receptor sites and it locks into it until it's consumed. Then it can't get, that single receptor can't get another cannabinoid into its receptor. So it's metabolized generally within 12 hours at the most. And so smoked cannabis is generally metabolized within 4 to 6 hours. Eaten cannabis, because it's more slowly released, lasts anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. And at that point, you don't have the effect anymore. So I think that's great. Yeah, we had a pretty interesting conference here in Portland the past few days. We had the guests on last week from the Cannabis Collaborative Project, and Dr. Rachel Knox made a pretty good presentation talking about those receptor sites and some other things. So maybe we'll get that video for future shows. I have our show and tell here. Maybe we can get camera 2 to close in on our, the kids nowadays, they call it sharing. Can you close in here on this one bottle, Steve? So there we go. It'll take a minute to focus, I know. So there it is. So this is Eli Lilly. We'll move it over here so it's out of that text. An Eli Lilly powdered cannabis extract. Eli Lilly had about 20 different cannabis products, including about half of them were mixed with other substances, from opiates to chloroform and other things. So this is about a 1920 bottle. It's got a top on it that is screw down. That makes it a little more modern. Right next to it we have here an Eli Lilly, that other one was Eli Lilly. This is Park Davis, and it's also cannabis extract, powdered extract. So this is keef or powdered hashish. And so this is the front of the bottle. It's wrapped around. And then this one right next door is from Upjohn. There we go. Move that over. Upjohn, another company that's still out. These are cannabis pills. And this bottle originally had 1,000 little pills in it. It still has a few left in here, about 100 to 150 of these antique cannabis pills. Then we'll come over here to this bottle. This is the Upjohn one. This was Park Davis, excuse me. So this is the Upjohn bottle. It's a cannabis extract. And so this other one was Park Davis. And so in this last one is a cough syrup out of West Virginia. It's pretty interesting. And right next to that, we have our hemp flame of freedom. This is hemp seed oil with a hemp wick burning in there. And so this shows how hemp is a fuel. I believe this is the main reason that cannabis was made illegal. It was the affected industries that made up the whole reefer madness marijuana myth. As the late great Kentucky attorney Gatewood Galbraith taught me, those people who made it illegal are the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist son of a bitches. So I like to say that whenever I get a chance, and to remember our friend Gatewood. We have some hemp oil here. Right next door, we have this hemp twine. And this is where the wick comes from. This is next week's wick for our hemp flame of freedom. This is a ball of twine we're slowly working for. And then right here we have hempcrete. This is hemp fiber mixed with powdered quicklime or powdered limestone, and it turns into a material that's stronger and lighter than concrete. And that's a building material. So I know they've made some changes, Holly, in Colorado around the hemp legislation, the whole federal legalization with the farm bill just last month.
And there's lots of amazing property out in Colorado for hemp to be grown.
And so I know we're seeing an explosion here in Oregon of CBD manufacturing, CBD isolates, hemp farmers just growing the flowers, sinsemilla flowers that until you smoke them, you wouldn't really know they weren't THC-rich flowers, but by law they have to be less than 0.3%, less than a third of 1% THC.
Right, I actually saw, looking at properties for sale, I saw a hemp farm for sale 2 hours outside of Denver that was already certified organic and on the market for sale. So I was just blown away by that it's good to see that they are giving organic certifications to hemp farms now.
They wouldn't do that in Oregon, at least last year. They refused to consider that. They said because of federal law. Now that the federal law has changed, at least for ultra low THC hemp, that hopefully they'll start doing that.
And there's also a lot of hempcrete buildings being built in Denver. It's there's an amazing crew of people who are getting out there, and they just built one in the downtown Denver area.
All right.
So
do you know the company name or anybody to plug on that?
Oh my goodness.
I'll put you on the spot. If you don't know, that's okay.
No, I don't. But I will send you the information, and we can share it with the viewers. That way we can, others can look it up and see the amazing buildings that are.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. We can post
the strong fiber.
It is. It is. It's the longest and strongest plant fiber, and the oldest and most productive crop. I always like to tell our viewers.
Right.
We have another video. This one is about the complete cannabinoid system. It's from the University of Kansas at Lawrence. It's about 5 years old, but it's still cutting edge medical knowledge with some nice animation. So we'll be right back after this.
Particularly abdominal obesity and the associated cardiometabolic complications are critical areas of investigation. The endocannabinoid system helps to regulate the central control of energy balance and peripheral metabolic processes, both of which may contribute to cardiometabolic risk factors. The endocannabinoid system, or ECS, influences multiple physiologic processes. This intricate system modulates energy intake, as well as nutrient transport, metabolism, and storage. The ECS regulates these processes through endogenous ligands, such as anandamide and 2-arachidonylglycerol, and the CB1 receptor. CB1 receptors are located in the brain, digestive tract, muscle, and adipose tissue. Integration of these central and peripheral ECS components is achieved through neuronal and hormonal signaling. Within the brain, CB1 receptors are among the most abundant G-protein coupled receptors. However, in contrast to classical signaling, where information travels from pre- to post-synaptic neurons, the ECS uses retrograde signaling. The information travels from post- to presynaptic neuron. Let's take a closer look at this mechanism using a glutamatergic neuron model. When an action potential reaches the axon terminal, membrane depolarization triggers the release of glutamate. Glutamate binds to postsynaptic glutamate receptors, inducing calcium channels to open. During periods of intense neural activity, calcium accumulates in the postsynaptic neuron. This calcium buildup causes the synthesis and release of endocannabinoids from membrane lipids. Diffusing across the synaptic cleft, the endocannabinoids bind to the CB1 receptor, activating the G proteins. Activation influences ion flow. The result, suppression of presynaptic neurotransmitter release. Endocannabinoids are subsequently taken back into the cell and enzymatically degraded. In addition to acting as neural messengers, endocannabinoids mediate paracrine and autocrine signaling in adipocytes, hepatocytes, and other cells. Endocannabinoid system activity in the central nervous system regulates food intake. For example, ECS stimulation by hunger and fasting signals stimulates appetite and increases the palatability of food. Endocannabinoids slow gastric emptying and GI transit and appear to stimulate secretion of ghrelin, a neuropeptide that increases appetite and food intake. After eating, cholecystokinin in the duodenum triggers satiety signals. Subsequently, ECS activity is decreased through suppression of CB1 expression. An increase in the adiposity hormone leptin decreases endocannabinoid levels in the hypothalamus and decreases food intake. ECS regulation of peripheral metabolism influences energy balance. Stimulation of the ECS increases food intake and adiposity. Conversely, blocking CB1 receptors reduces food intake and adiposity. In the liver, ECS stimulation can lead to lipogenesis through the activation of hepatic lipogenic enzymes and increased fatty acid synthesis. Chronic stimulation of the ECS is associated with dyslipidemia. Activation of CB1 receptors increases expression of SREBP1C, a lipogenic transcription factor, and increases fatty acid synthesis. SREBP1C increases production of lipogenic enzymes, ACC1, and fatty acid synthase. Increased fatty acid synthesis can lead to production of large triglyceride-rich VLDL. Large triglyceride-rich VLDL sets the stage for the atherogenic lipid profile of small, dense LDL, decreased levels of atheroprotective HDL, and overall increases in cholesterol and triglyceride levels. Adiponectin, another hormone secreted by adipocytes, regulates lipid and glucose metabolism. Adiponectin is believed to regulate fatty acid oxidation in muscle and liver, thus improving insulin sensitivity. CB1 receptor stimulation in adipocytes reduces adiponectin, while CB1 blockade increases adiponectin synthesis. Metabolic dysregulation leads to a constellation of symptoms including abdominal obesity, atherogenic dyslipidemia, hypertension, insulin resistance, prothrombotic state, and pro-inflammatory state. As basic and clinical research progresses, we will continue to increase our understanding of the central and peripheral endocannabinoid system and its role in the regulation of metabolic function.
Okay, that was a video from the University of Kansas at Lawrence. It's about 5 years old. It's highly technical, you could see there, but definitely a good place to learn. And it answers some of the questions that our audience member had a little bit ago. Now, if you have questions about medical marijuana, industrial hemp, or adult use of cannabis, then give us a call at that number there on your screen. It's 288-4442. That's 288-4442. So we were talking while the video was rolling a little bit about the National Hemp Industry Association. You have a friend who's working in their national office. Tell us about that.
I do. And that's who I was speaking about, that is building, they're doing the hempcrete buildings in Denver. So I've been seeing it through the National Hemp Association. And
yeah. They've been doing some great work. I know that they lobbied for the addition to the Farm Bill, and they celebrated that here recently. It started as the Business Alliance for Commerce in Hemp, or BAC, by this fellow Chris Conrad, who wrote Hemp Lifeline to the Future. He started that organization.
Amazing
and then it
activist.
later, yeah, he became what's now the National Hemp Industry Association.
And just the fact that they're getting out there and doing some grassroots stuff. They're going to events and getting to more people that aren't just in the core cannabis community.
Yeah.
People are learning more that it has, hundreds and thousands of uses.
Exactly.
And we're missing out on so much by using toxic cotton and other things like that we could be using hemp for.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll be doing more and more of that now that we can allow our farmers to grow industrial hemp, even if it is the ultra low THC variety. They can still produce quite a bit of fiber and seed oil and protein. And so here in Oregon, we have a lot of hemp foods at our grocery stores. Do you have that in Colorado
We do.
as well?
It's big. And I was just reading something about how it could change the livestock industry, just with feed for the animals. And I mean, that's huge.
It is. And the byproduct of those seed production is oil like this and food. And that's something that the world can always use.
Definitely.
We want to tell our audience about the Oregon Cannabis Commission. That is an advisory body that the governor nominated several people to be on last year. The ones who are most friendly to our community are next week's guest, Anthony Taylor and Dr. Rachel Knox. And so we'll have Anthony Taylor here, but they have a quarterly meeting. It's a public meeting, so the public's welcome. It's coming up on Monday, this coming Monday, January 28th. If you're watching after January 28th, it's too late now. But it's going to start at 1 o'clock. It's from 1 to 4. It's at the Portland State Office Building at 800 Northeast Oregon Street. It's the big office next to the Lloyd Center Mall. It's got the frame of a dome on top of the office building. And so the meeting will be on the ground floor in conference room 113. And if you're interested in more information, you can sign up for the Oregon Cannabis Commission email list. But again, that meeting, if you want to come in and talk about medical cannabis and talk to representatives who are dealing with the legislature every day, you can, if you have any of those conditions and you want to contact them, just come to that meeting. It's Monday, January 28th at 1 p.m. at 800 Northeast Oregon Street on the ground floor in room 113. Now, if you have any of these conditions, from chronic pain and nausea to traumatic stress and glaucoma, seizures, gastrointestinal ailments or neurological diseases, and you think medical cannabis is something you would like to try, we have a physician referral service and physicians located all over the country. Just give us a call at our office number. That's 503-235-4606. If you'd like to reach out to our office for any reason, you need a physician referral or you have a question, then give us a call at 503-235-4606. You can also tell your friends that this show is streaming live. They can call in while we're streaming live. It streams at facebook.com/restorehemp. That's facebook.com/restorehemp. We're up to show, I think this is like 981. It's our 981st show since 1996. And so we have hundreds of those shows, starting at about show 250. And you can find that one at YouTube. We have an archive of more than 700 shows at youtube.com/cannabiscommonsense. All stroked together, lowercase. That's youtube.com/cannabiscommonsense. So you worked in our office back. When did you first start working in our office? It was in
2005.
Wheat Ridge. Right?
In Wheat Ridge, yes.
In 2005. That's right. Just shortly after we opened. Well, you said you got into the program when you were about patient 600.
I actually went into the office to get my medical referral.
Yeah.
And there was not even furniture yet.
Yeah.
It was just a folding table and chairs, and it just started there. So it was
a good time to apply.
Right. And there was only one, maybe two dispensaries in Denver at that time.
Yeah.
So I actually
and they weren't
took a
really
bus right
licensed
there.
yet then.
Not really.
Yeah, it was right in Wheat Ridge, just off what is that, Interstate 70?
Yeah, not far from there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see how it's changed, just evolving to working in the office. And I really enjoyed it.
I know in Colorado from 2005 until about 2008, we were really the only cannabis business advertising, both there in Denver and throughout the state. We were setting up appointments in lots of other cities. Can you remember some of the cities we visited there?
You were in Denver, I remember, and Wheat Ridge for quite a while.
Yeah, and we went out to Grand Junction and down to Durango.
And did remote doctor visits and Pueblo,
Colorado Springs,
I believe, too.
Yeah. So I think at the end we helped about 35,000 Coloradans get their medical marijuana recommendations. I think the maximum number of patients in Colorado, it was about 158,000. Does that ring a bell? Or
I'm not sure the max number, but they started, it used to be in order on the medical cards, and then around 2007 they started doing weird numbers and letters, so it was kind of
here
harder
in Oregon
to keep
they're
track.
still doing sequential numbers. So, but there's so many cards that have been issued. Like I personally have had hundreds, and so each one has a different number.
And some people don't care about having their card anymore because of the legalization, which is an interesting thing, but I know that medicine is more affordable when you're a patient, which as it should be, because you're having to use it as a medicine.
And this stuff grows on trees, so it shouldn't be taxed. It should be a lot more accessible. And I think, what we're seeing right now is just a first step. We'll see further and further deregulation. Alcohol laws continue to change in municipalities and counties and states across the country. We're just begun to see the changes around cannabis, but I believe that the regulations for alcohol are too strong for cannabis. Alcohol can't produce hempcrete. Alcohol, we can't run we can't actually run cars on alcohol, but and you can make alcohol with hemp biomass too, but and it's a very valuable fuel. I think it's a part of the mix.
But it's not a fiber.
It's not a fiber. It's not an oil for your health. and it certainly doesn't have all the medicinal properties that medical cannabis does, the wide range of conditions that cannabis affects.
I know it's changed my life.
Yeah, so you're dealing with muscular dystrophy. How does it affect your handling that disease?
Before, when I was on pain medications, I didn't function very well. I didn't go out very much. I didn't remember things. I would talk on the phone and not remember who I was talking to right after hanging up. I couldn't function very, to my full potential. So when it took me about 2 years to kind of wean myself off of pharmaceuticals and just be full on cannabis. And I'm proud to say I haven't taken pharmaceuticals in 12 years now, or 11 years.
Do you think it slowed the progression of the disease?
I don't know. I feel pretty much on the same level as far as
you haven't seen an advance in your
but I know
symptoms.
that my pain is tolerable. I can handle being who I want to be and still doing yoga and exercising and being able to be healthy.
Yeah. Well, we are down to just about 3 minutes left. There was a website? Did you want to promote the National Hemp Industry
I did.
Association?
Just the nationalhempassociation.org.
Oh,
so that's
the National
nationalhempassociation.org.
That's a good one out there. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to crrh.org. That's for the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp. And if you have any other questions about a physician referral or anything to do with cannabis, we're there, ready to take your call. Just call us at that number on your screen. It's 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. Hey, well, it's really a pleasure seeing you again, Holly.
Thank you.
This is Holly Jury, a patient from Colorado, just happens to be visiting here in town and agreed to pop on the show. I thank you for doing that.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for watching. Mr. John Cornett is standing by. You think you got 2 minutes of music for us, John? Okay, sounds good. I want to thank you guys for watching, and tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
All right, thank you, Charlie Lessman, for this one. Did you know the sun will shine one day and everything on earth will melt away? All the oceans rise above the land, drowning every woman, every man. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. We'll be just another asteroid floating through the mind of Sigmund Freud. So many years we've been upon this place. Who believe the future that we face? Whoa, let's make the best of it now. 'Cause you never know when your time will pass. You got to do just what you want to do. And if somebody tries to ruin your day, walk away. Another chapter as we turn the page. We exist within the nuclear age. I know that freedom's heard around the globe. Where our future lies, well, nobody knows. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. 'Cause you never know when the sky will fall. Maybe the moon will reach the earth one day. We're not the same race that we used to be. Can't you see? Now the next time that you fall in love, just appreciate the sun above. 'Cause the sun is shining on and on.